seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
This is KBCC 89.5 FM, Tracy, California, Peace and Justice Network of San Joaquin.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS The Voice of Stockton or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Neas with Behind the Art Scene on The Voice of Stockton. And today my guest is Diana Beuttner. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you.
And so we're going to be talking art. Diana's been on The Voice of Stockton a few times before, but this is the first time she's talked about art. So, Diana, you said that you were from Stockton?
Yes, I am from Stockton, born and raised.
All right. And so when you said that you have taught at several high schools, how did you, what did you end up teaching, or how did you?
I actually taught special education. I taught
okay.
the learning handicapped, and I used a lot of art in my teaching.
So can you tell what kinds of art, what kind of thing?
There was things, the art that I used was mostly drawings, and having the kids listen to readings or watch videos, and then have them write out or draw pictures of what that meant to them and what they got from it. And some of the drawings were pretty amazing. They weren't great artists, but I could tell from what they drew that they had understood what I was talking about, and they got the content, and which was the point.
So it was kind of illustrating what you, the subject matter? Or?
Right. There was illustrations of the subject matter, and at the same time, there were children these are kids that didn't have the skill to be able to always read and write. And so when there's an absence of that in the teacher, as a teacher, I need to know whether you understood what I was talking about. And so I used it for a check method to find out whether or not they understood.
So what type of subjects can you just give an example?
I actually used it for English and English, science, and I believe I also used it for history.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's really neat. I love this coloring book. Let's see if you can hold that up. There we go. And it's all about the 60s and peace and love, and a lot of imagery, peace signs, the bus, hippie bus and everything, mandalas. And how did you come across this coloring book?
Actually, this coloring book was just given to me last weekend by a friend of mine in San Diego, whose brother gave it to her, and then I took it, and she gave it to me because I was kind of bored. When I'm at home alone, I paint, and so she figured I'd probably do pretty good with a coloring book, and I used colored pencils. And it was a lot of fun.
Did you bring the picture?
I did not bring the picture
okay.
of that.
So you ended up making a copy of one of the sheets and then colored the copy, or you just tore out the
I just tore out the page,
tore out the page, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see that you brought some of your paintings.
I did. Sure.
Show those.
Let's see. This one here. Let's see.
Yeah, if we can. This way. There we go.
There you go. This one here is one that I recently did. I'm friends of animals, and I have friends that take care of animals. Julie Derman Brown is one of my friends, and so I saw something on Facebook, and I thought, I wonder if they'd like some paintings.
Oh, okay.
And so I just did some because I love painting. It's fun, and it's a way for me to express my care, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. But it's one of those skills that can be used to share with others. Different things, and
So you're gonna give these to?
yeah, these will be given to the Humane Society. Not fall over here. I'll be
There we
great.
go.
All right, and then there's the one that they sent me a picture of.
Oh,
This
yeah.
little guy, these two little cuties in the.
There we go.
Yeah, these two little cuties in the cage. My friend thought I was crazy for painting them in the cage, but that's how they are up here. So, so people need to know that that's what happens to their cats when they
Yeah.
don't take care of them. Then these poor little critters get stuck in the. All right, and then there's this
Oh,
one
yeah.
here. I'm
Yeah.
not quite finished. Whoop, that one's not quite in the picture.
All right, it'll come around.
It's in front of my face now, so I
There we
can't
go.
see it.
There we go.
There we go. Okay.
So I've been watching this on Facebook. Does this this cat does it have larger ears?
Well, its ears are. It's a newborn, and so it's kind of in. So that's why I said it's a work in progress. As I'm not quite finished with that one.
I thought there should be an ear there. or
There
something.
it is, but the head is cocked a
okay.
little
Out of
differently, and so
angle.
so that you can't see the other ear. Yeah.
Okay.
And then this last one here.
And your prize painting.
My
yes.
prize painting. This is my youngest daughter at her wedding.
That is just wonderful. And you went to Hawaii.
I did for this wedding. Yes, it was wonderful. It was on the beach at Kona, and Kailua Kona, and it was beautiful.
So you giving that to her? Or you
I
gonna
am.
keep
Yes,
that?
I
Okay.
am. I have to finish his picture. I'm doing him as well. I'm not just partial to my
Oh,
own child.
okay.
it's a kind of a belated wedding gift.
So it's a bride and groom.
Yes, bride and groom
okay.
situation.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. And I know that you said you wanted to move to Hawaii, but so you're not going to be able to
Yeah, it
move.
doesn't look like I'm going to be able to pull off the health care, which is always my issue.
Yeah.
I love it over there. The atmosphere is so peaceful. Kailua Kona is very quiet, and it's all about peace and love. And it's just it's not the big tourist place. It's the very quiet, calm everybody. You can walk across the street from my daughter's apartment, or actually condo. You can walk across the street into the Longs, and there's all kinds of coffee shops and things across the street. And you'll find people out there, I think they said like twice a week, they go out there and they get together and all their ukuleles come out and they sit there and they just sing for like 2 hours. And just because they can. And that just struck me as such a peaceful act and a loving act of art. It's like the ability to sing and dance and do all of that stuff is very important.
Yeah.
And so for me, that would be the perfect spot. I would love to go over there and sit and listen to music. I love music as well. So.
And on her head, is that kind of a lei?
Yeah, it's kind of like a lei that they did, and then actually around her neck and around his as well, they both wore leis.
Because one of my friends, she actually, I think she's from Hawaii, and she makes the leis. And did you see people making leis there? Or?
I did not see that, but
Yeah.
that was all done before I got there.
Oh, okay. Okay. So what other kinds of things did you do in Hawaii when you were there?
When I was there, I just visited on the beach,
Uh-huh.
and and I can't get sunburn, so I have health issues, and there's an issue there. But I just enjoyed. I went to I'm gonna get it wrong. Waipia Valley or something like that. I don't know where it is. Anyways, it was a beautiful place, and you had to have a 4-wheel drive to get down to it. And luckily, my son-in-law had a Jeep, and so we got to go down there and fool around. And they went off their way crossing the river, and I have mobility issues, so I did not try that. But I sat there and just enjoyed the peaceful calm of the sounds of the ocean, and the kids playing, and that to me is like perfect. and the colors of the ocean there are just amazing.
And you were actually painting some of those scenes?
I did paint one scenery from that, and that was a lot of fun. I'm still waiting. I have a buyer for that one, which is weird because I've never sold any paintings until just recently.
So you actually sold one at Art Splash. That's wonderful.
I did sell one, and that was I had a lot of fun doing that one. That was a picture of Santa Claus, and
I really enjoyed that one. That was from a greeting card, or
yeah, it was from a greeting card, an antique greeting card. So it was a really fun project to recreate. I love antiques as well, so. Anything that has to do with art, I'm on it.
And
at least in heart.
I love what you've done with your house. Just like on the outside of your house, you have murals.
I do, and I turned off my phone. So if you'll excuse me a second, I'll reach down and get my phone so I can show you some pictures.
So where do you get the inspiration for the what you paint?
Most of the time it's from pictures that I like. Occasionally I use, I just, whatever's my first inspiration for painting was, I didn't want to play the consumer game, believe it or not. That's what it was, and I painted some paintings for my grandchildren. 4 of them, 3 of them anyways. I tried one for the older kid and it didn't work. Didn't turn out well, but 3 of the younger kids, I actually did paint stuff for, and they're actually in my little collection here. I can show you where I began my thing. One of them was, I asked because my grandchildren don't live in Stockton, so I was trying to think what in the world would you paint that kid would like, right?
So where do they live?
They live in Ione.
Oh, okay.
4 of them live in Ione. 1 lives here.
Okay.
And so the 2 younger ones live in Ione, and the little one at the time was into dinosaurs. And I found a picture on Google and then turned it into something that would appeal to him. And then the older boy, who is they both began schooling here in Stockton. They lived here for a while. He was a child that was a special ed child who was given we're just going to give you sign language. They were not going to, Stockton Unified was not willing to teach him any other methods.
Oh, wow.
And my daughter is a big fighter when it comes to that stuff. And so she was also a special ed assistant. So he's like 70% deaf. We found a school, and that's how he got his education. He's actually ahead of the class. In all of his work, he and his younger brother both attended a special school. It's called CCHAT in, Rancho Cordova. There we go.
Okay.
And so they started riding the bus and stuff. And so I did those things with them in mind. And so I asked what he liked, and the remark was that he was very much into books.
Well,
He likes to read, and he dances and sings too. He's quite the interesting kid.
How old is he now?
He's 11 now.
Okay.
Yeah, and I believe this started back in, I don't know, it's been a while. So, let's see if I can pull this up. Come on, turn. Turn. So, this one, I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah, it'll come around again. So. There we go.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, it's kind of small, but it's a
Diary of a
Wimpy Kid, and what I did is I didn't actually paint. I painted a picture that I saw, and I painted it to look as if it were a book that were open.
Oh yeah,
and
coming out of the book.
where the characters were popping out of the book, and that was fun. And then the older one, who's autistic, he's 16 now, but back then he used to sit and watch my computer all day long, and he likes fire trucks.
Oh yeah.
And so it's a picture of Jaden watching fire trucks on Grandma's computer.
There you go.
And then the was
was your
somewhere.
the dinosaur?
Oh, yep. There you go.
Dinosaur. There we go.
But that's it. That's what I did for fun, in that. That's where it started. And then I think one day I walked outside, and
So when would you say that was?
I'm gonna say that was probably, probably 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. I don't remember if it was before my surgery or not. I was funny because I was watching a deal on the news today, and they were talking about news, or I don't know what it was, the news or some other project, but they were talking about a woman who paints now and she does it digitally, with some digital program, and it was after a brain malfunction that she had, and I didn't start really painting as a big hobby until after my brain surgery, and my eyes were affected in that. So my vision, I have right hemisphere of both eyes, I have blind spots, and so I have to use my phone for perspective because I did not go to school to learn how to paint. So I've done a lot of adapting, which has been fun. That's been a lot of fun, and
because I know that you I think you showed with the Art Against Violence.
Yes.
And then you were in my show, A World Without Art.
Yes.
So I love your scenes in that show. You had some butterflies and a picture of your front yard with the heart. And
Oh yeah, that was that one. Yeah, I didn't stash one for those today, but I think I did. That was one of my first canvases. Which the first couple of canvases were very interesting, and doing perspective on a canvas was amazing. And then when I transferred over to the murals, that got really weird.
To chalk?
The murals on the house.
Murals on your house.
Yeah, the murals on my house, and those became projects that, like, I started with this. Let's see if I can make it bigger. With the wisteria,
the flower.
I looked up a picture of the tree or whatever, vine or whatever, and that's how that one was painted.
So hanging flowers.
And so then I just started getting weird and started creating. I was like, wouldn't it be interesting if? And that was kind of the way my artwork started. I had my.
I love those ones. It's hard to when you paint it on
on the concrete
on the concrete surface, how to keep that protected. But was that of your grandson swimming? Or?
Yeah, well, the idea was that I have five grandsons. I only did 4 kids. The oldest one was the one I never got around to the last one, but it was absolutely about the grandkids and the idea that family is important and having fun is very, very much important. It's one of those things that we get so busy buying and doing this technological entertainment. For me, it's really important to have fun with other people. And at the same time, it grew into a way of messaging. And it didn't start out that way. It wasn't about messaging. It was about fun and sharing with family. And then it became a messaging. So when I did the murals on the house, on the outside of the house, that became my way of saying the planet's in trouble. This is what is beautiful, and we need to make sure that we maintain it. And it's why the little bee that's by the rose bush is one of those paintings that that started with, and the reason for it was because of the the climate and what we're doing. And art can have an impact in many ways, not just in the classroom, not just for fun. It can be used for activism as well. And
So you did a lot of that. Can you talk about that on the at the steps of City Hall?
And then there was that. Yeah, that was when I was still teaching. That was before my surgery. And what I did was Occupy LA was doing graffiti, was doing massive art depictions for part of their protest. It was protest art, basically. And they were beautiful pictures. They were really talented. There were some really talented artists that were getting in there, and they were being arrested for graffiti. I'm thinking, wait, this is chalk. It's washable. How is it graffiti? And so that's where my head was, because I was a part of Occupy Stockton, and I'm thinking, okay, why are we looking at chalk as if it were a weapon of mass destruction?
So it was chalk on the sidewalk.
So chalk's on the sidewalk. And so I went, I'm a teacher, and everyone knows that a hopscotch is not violent, it's not graffiti, it's a fun thing.
Right.
And so I took that and drew a hopscotch, not on the steps like they said, but in front of City Hall.
On the sidewalk.
Yeah.
By the steps.
By the steps. And then in each square, I wrote things like First Amendment rights, freedom of speech. I think I said something, love versus peace, love versus war versus peace, love versus hate, or love versus fear, I think is how I put that. Love versus fear. And then I said city council show some, and I was drawing a heart as I was pushed by the city manager at the time, Bob Dice, which I was kind of blown away. It was like, I've never thought about being pushed by a city manager, number one, and especially not for drawing a heart. But that's how I used the art. And after that, I started painting on my truck a lot. I used my truck for protest art. I used my truck for helping the veterans.
And then you had students painted on your
I did, and when I was
vehicle?
at my last year there at Chavez, I allowed our first year kids into art, the beginning kids, to go ahead and paint my truck. I had about 6 or 7 of them that worked on it, and I allowed them to paint whatever they wanted on my truck, keeping it clean, of course. And they had a blast doing it, and they did a really good job. I had a giant tiger, and there was some of the more modern art on it. There was one young lady that I watched, and I watched her paint, and I went, you watch Bob Ross. And it was very clear that was her thing. And, and then there was another kid that went with the ecology message. And, it was interesting to watch that and to see where the kids would take it. I'm a big fan of kids. They're our next leaders, and we need to give them a venue, and I'm a big fan of what we used to do back in the day. At Stribley Park, we had the kids took responsibility for painting out there, and it kept the tagging away. I had a neighbor next to my house that was partially part of she's an artist, did part of the artwork down before by the bus station, and she lived next door to me, and the county was going to fine her because she painted her fence to keep the tagging away.
Where was this?
This is on Stadium, I believe. Okay. And they wanted to fine her like $250, and I looked at her and she said, well, she was going to take it down, and I said, oh no, and I went to the county and said, what are you doing? And they said it was graffiti. They said it was graffiti, and I went, no, that's not graffiti. And she said, well, it came out of a spray can, and I went, that doesn't make it graffiti.
Oh, my word.
Yeah, but by the end of the day, long story short, I won, and she got to keep her artwork on her house. And she had already asked the whole neighborhood. That wasn't the neighborhood that was complaining. It was just a real estate agent that decided it was graffiti.
What was the subject? Or
Well, it was a different, the newer style artwork that I'm not. If I were to choose, it's not my favorite venue. It's not my favorite genre of art. But it's okay. It was great, and she asked, and the neighborhood
and it was on
fine
her
with it.
own fence.
It was on her own fence, yeah.
She should be able to do whatever she wants.
Well, and she was. It was just the worker was misinformed, and I had to help educate her. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I am a loudmouth, in case you haven't figured that out.
And I like everything that you have done with chalk. You've been coming out and doing some of the festivals I've had, and I love the piece design you made.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, that was fun. What does peace look like? Well, when I was growing up, that's what it looked like. I have an older cousin that was a hippie, and I always wanted to be one. Now I act like one. I'm not old enough. Don't you even tell me that. But I know what I like.
I'm a hippie.
I'm a hippie, kind of, sort of. But the bottom line is that I'm well aware that one of the things that I started with on the murals was signs of love, signs about love, and I'm aware that that's the most powerful energy. If you stay with me here, it's the most powerful energy on the face of the planet. And if we can all get behind that, somebody told me not too long ago that I was a crazy fascist hippie, freaky, whatever, I don't know, whatever. And my peace and love thing never worked before, and it's not going to work now. And I went, well, it's because nobody ever tried it. If we start paying attention to our actions, and love is a verb. It's not a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a verb. It's action. And we, the more we do that comes from our place of passion, we can change things, but we have to use our voice, and artists use their voice in many different ways. I'm in love with Michael Franti's music. His message is peace and love and all of that stuff. There's the artists that are protest art in music is amazing. I never knew because I never listened to the words, and then I grew up and I went, oh, wow. I didn't know the Monkees was a protest band. I had no idea. I just thought they were cute, But art is very important, and I get that. And I took a class, I think, when I was in the 8th grade and one in the 9th grade, and that was the only art I've ever taken in school. So I knew a little tiny bit, but I'm just doing this because it's just something I like to do,
So that's how you spend your free time?
Yeah, well, I'm retired. I have all kinds of free time. When I'm not doing that, I'm volunteering at another organization and helping people out and distributing food and doing whatever I got to do to help the people. This is our city, and we need to all be mindful of the power that we have in our actions. And I'm really glad that I woke up to that fact that, it is. Somebody once said, if I have to say why don't they, then I also have to say why don't I. Mm-hmm. And that for me has been a real good measure of what I can do. And I can't always do the great big deals, but even every little bit helps. Sure. If all you can do is come out and watch a kid's coloring, for a little session at the library, that's helpful. That helps those kids. It helps the adults. There's lots of things that we can do as humans. And one of the things I learned when I was learning to become a teacher was that we all have something to teach. We all do. You just have to find what it is and be able to name it and then claim it.
There you go. I love that you put action. You're willing to go and do these things. And so many people, I don't know if they just don't have the time or they, I think each of us needs to find out what we can contribute and do something.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and there are places to volunteer all over town. I belong to an organization that's all volunteer. No one gets paid. It's not a nonprofit, and it does good things for the community.
What
Really good.
group is that?
That would be the Western Farm Workers Association. I'm not a spokesperson for them, but I've been volunteering with them for, I believe, like 14, 16 years, something like that. It's been a while. I started in 2004. Wow. And, it's a worker among workers, and we're doing what we can to help each other. Right. This economy is falling apart for the people.
Right.
The people at the top of the food chain are getting fed.
Yeah.
The folks on the bottom are not, and so it's really important that we start thinking about, well, I may have enough today, but what if I don't tomorrow? Where would I go? And the best way to do that is to join a group that's going to help everybody and be part of the working membership that actually helps. And some people can't because they work, and so there's other ways to volunteer, other ways to help things go about. But that'll be out soon too. I just love being able to be active, and and I was very quiet as far as politics and all of that stuff before. I just kind of minded my own business, did my own thing, and I suddenly found myself being asked to be an admin on a page one day, and it was like, I don't even know what that means. What do you, and that was how it started, and that was in 2008, and and I was teaching, and that began a whole new career for me, and I find it always find it interesting that as a teenager, at 16, I was an extra in the movie Bound for Glory, that was about Woody Guthrie's life. So, and I ended up being an organizer. I ended up being a site rep in the school, and
so where was that?
That was the part that I was in was filmed out at Ileton.
Really?
Yeah, and I, at 16 years old, I actually paid part of my way to Germany as an exchange student because I was able to do that work as an extra.
Oh my!
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing.
So how long were you in Germany?
I was in Germany for about 5 weeks. It was a short program. I stayed there for 5 weeks, and then the other girl that I stayed with came back here and stayed with me.
So what? Where in Germany?
I stayed in Cologne. Cologne.
So what? Can you tell us what you learned over in Germany? How they do things differently? Or
Well, one of the things I saw that was a big deal was the transportation system.
Sure.
A huge difference. They still have mom and pop stores. Now this is a long time ago, and I don't know if they still do. But I could walk down the block to a little store, and their housing situations were totally different. The setup was it was really interesting. They were like from basement, and there was like 2 or 3 floors. It was really interesting.
So you lived above the store, or you?
Well, the bedroom that the store was down the street,
okay.
But there were some different ideas. I've seen some things we're finally starting to come along with some of the things that happened in Holland. I was in downtown Amsterdam. I missed the bicentennial. I was actually in downtown Amsterdam. Yeah, I've had an interesting life. It's been a blast. So I'm very grateful that I can do what I can.
And I know that you when things get a little difficult, you love to go camping and get away.
Oh, that's my other respite. I don't get to go as often anymore, and I'm getting too old to go on the ground. So I bought a cot years ago, and I still tent camp. Actually, I'm going not this weekend, but the next weekend with a group of women. I love camping.
So what do you do when you go camping?
Well, it depends on how I feel physically because I have mobility issues as well. But in the last couple times I've been out in the woods, I've actually gone on some short hikes, and I just love going and just sitting and looking at the water and taking pictures. That's usually what I do a lot of. And when I'm in the woods, it's very quiet. Like I go with a guy that goes and wanders around with his dogs, and he has a blast, and I sit there quietly. And I actually did a painting of my favorite camp spot one time. But I tend to write poetry in the woods. And I've never been able to write poetry. I never understood poetry before.
So Are there any poems that you can share with?
I
with
don't
us?
even know that I have anything with me. But one was about the listening to the sound of the wind whistling through the trees and the birds and I mean it was just it's about the reality of where I was and what's important. You know, the deal is that we're all one. We are one huge ecosystem, and we tend to think of ourselves as being separate from the ecosystem, but we're not. We're all a part of it. Our actions have reactions. You know, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. I mean, it's like there are things that when we do and don't pay attention to. I was the honorary teacher at Chavez that if a kid, and I didn't care who he was, then I didn't have to know him, and I would look at him, he'd drop his trash, and I'd say, no, pick that up. That's not what we do here. Pick it up. You know, because I understand that that's very important. Would you want someone to throw trash in your house?
Yeah,
you know?
we need to get back to that. It's really run amok.
Yeah, well, and I think it's been, for me, I've looked at it and said it has a lot to do with the greed and the consumerism. In the beginning, it was because the boomers were doing so well.
Mhm.
You know, the baby boomers' families were really doing well, and then it became oh, I want that, and so we're going to go get a job. And it became I need that. And we really got into consuming things that we really didn't need. And now it's difficult for people to tell the difference between needs and wants and look at the impact of our needs and wants. Because that makes a difference. It makes a
Sure.
really big difference. You know, a couple years back, I designed my front yard with the hearts and the whole bunch of different drought-resistant plants on purpose. You know, and they were put in that heart to say, love the planet, love yourself, and take care of where you are right now. This is not about what I'm going to do in 20 or 30 years, like take care of the homeless. You know, I do that now. I don't, it's not about waiting, because who knows? I could end up out there too. You know, I'm on a fixed income and things keep going up and my health care isn't great because the school district screwed me out of my sorry, they did. They cheated me out of my health care by 15 days. And, you know, nothing's for sure.
Right.
Except, like, you know, we're born and we die. So I want to make the biggest impact I can make for the betterment of what I know is my life and my society that I live in. We're a long way from civilized. We keep calling ourselves a civil society, but we are a long way from that. There's a lot we could learn from the indigenous cultures.
Yeah.
And I think our forced assimilation thing is, for me, an abomination. We lose the wisdom of all those that came before us. And it's really important that we take care of what we have. And I'm also very opinionated. I'm not just a loudmouth. I'm also very opinionated.
So I love that you look to art for answers. You know, that when you're saying you design your front yard to be drought tolerant and putting the murals and when you do some coloring in a coloring book or paint,
listening to music.
Listening to music.
Yeah, music is really important.
And the poetry and
yeah.
yeah. So I think the arts can be very healing, and it does get our message across. I know that I just don't want to go.
It isn't all
paint
about
anything. I want it to be of meaning.
Yeah.
And that's why I got involved in the art against violence.
Yeah.
And the multicultural. I want to have I had a multicultural, the Peace and Light Festival, but I'd like to have a multicultural, like, healing festival. So all the different cultures and just learning from each other and from what you were saying about our elders. And I mean, there's so much that we can get from all the peoples around the world, and
Yeah.
and the different generations.
Yeah, it's an interesting deal. I mean, I started watching that. I mentioned the monkeys, right?
Oh, uh-huh.
Okay, but I also took a course at Stanislaus State where we talked about music and it being oral history. So for those who always poo-poo the rap music, it comes there's many different ways to do rap music. Some of it is kind of repulsive, but the bottom line is it says a lot about our culture. It says a lot about our culture and where we've gone. So we need to look at that and say, okay, well, what do we need to do to fix that? We don't always want to just sit and listen to music because we like the music. We need to listen to the message of the music. Music is a great medium for messaging. And I can't wait. I'm going to see Michael Franti and Ziggy Marley. I can't wait. It's going to be a great concert.
Where is that going to be?
That's going to be at Ironstone.
Okay.
Yeah. It's 28th, I believe.
That's Murphy's?
Yeah.
I've never been to Ironstone, but
Yeah, I haven't either. This is new. Now I don't spend a lot of money on concerts, but this one seemed well worth it, and I may get to take one daughter and maybe my grandson. So,
okay. So how are you going to get there?
well, it won't be me driving.
Okay.
Hopefully my daughter will drive us. If the other one doesn't want to go, I will find another person to go with me. I don't care.
Okay.
I've already got the ticket.
Okay.
So,
When is that?
it is on the 28th
Of
this month.
June.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah, it's on a Friday night, I believe.
Oh
Yeah.
well. Speaking of the 28th, if we can figure out how to show this, let's show this. You want to hold it?
Sure.
There we go. So we're gonna have a performance out in Linden. Have you been to the Linden Theater?
I have not.
They've made just a really lovely theater at the high school in Linden, and it's called Linden I Love You, and they're going to be doing this Friday, June 28th, and Saturday, June 29th. Friday it's at 7 p.m. and Saturday it's at 1 p.m. So should go out to Linden. I just found out. Have you tried to take Van Gogh?
I did take it once, yeah, and it's actually really nice to be able to go somewhere cheaply.
So where did you take it to?
I just took it to the drugstore and back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So people living in Stockton can actually take it all the way to Linden.
Oh, nice.
And so on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, they go till like 10 at night. On weekdays, they stop at 6. But so you could actually, on Saturday, June 29th at 1 p.m., you could take the Van Gogh. It's the RTD. It's a shuttle service that ride share. So were there other people on the Van Gogh when you went? Or?
No, there were not that day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So actually, I took it yesterday. It was the first time I wasn't alone. We had like 5 people on the Van Gogh, but they actually come to your house and pick you up and take you wherever you want to go. So look that up online. It's SJRTD, and look up Van Gogh. It's VANGO. So just wanted to mention that.
No,
So, do you have anything else coming up?
well, we have Art Splash.
Oh, yes.
We have Art Splash.
Let's talk about Art Splash.
Yeah.
So, tomorrow is Art Splash. It's the second Art Splash of this year. So, June 14th, Art Splash happens on the second Friday of the month. It starts in May and goes all the way till October. And we're going to be in the Crest building. So I just found out about a group. I guess they've been around for a while, the Young Rembrandts. Have you heard of them?
I have heard of them,
Okay,
yes.
yeah. So they're going to be bringing some of their art, and Diana, she's going to, we'll have some coloring sheets. So if you want to come and do some coloring, look and see what's going on. We have 5 different venues in downtown. It's Freckled Moon, the Filipino Museum, County Administration Building, Crest Lobby, and the Mexican Heritage Center. So they'll all be full of art, and you can really have a good time. 5 to 8 in the evening, downtown. There's a few places you could go and get something to eat if you want. They're also having at Weber Point, they're starting the movies at the
night.
Point.
Nice.
So I think it's Aquaman is going to be. So when at dusk, the movie, they show a free movie at Weber Point. So come to the Art Splash first and then go over to Weber Point and have a good time.
Sounds like a plan.
There I go. So, and I know you just got back from, you went to Palm Springs.
I did. Yeah, that was fun. I didn't stay in the sun. 104 is too hot for me to be in the sun. I think I stayed I sat in the water to get wet and then got back out because I don't swim well because you had to kick and my feet don't work well like that. So, yeah, but I went and hung out with a friend and that lives out there, and then I hung out with some friends that I've known for years. We have a dance and do I actually did 2 karaoke songs. I don't know what that was.
What songs?
Oh, you're going to ask me that. I did I'm a Believer and Here Comes the Sun.
Oh, there we go.
I really am a hippie at heart.
Yep. So am I. So, but you also mentioned that they have, was it an art show downtown or?
In Palm Springs?
Yeah.
Oh, they've got, well, I actually went to a museum where they had an air show.
Oh, okay.
There's art all over Palm Springs.
Really?
And it's just those cities that I've seen that have art all over tend to be the places where people want to be.
Yeah.
You know?
There we go.
They want to be,
Yes.
I go to Santa Cruz and I see the art.
Right.
And I've been to Monterey where they have the art and it's painted on the walls. And even in, I want to say, where was it? Not Antioch. I'm going to have a brain fart. I can't figure out the name of the city. And it's not far from Oakland. But there's art.
Uh-huh.
That art is so important.
Right.
It makes it more welcoming.
So I love when art is in public.
Yeah.
That people can see. So we need to get back to the whole public art thing. Actually, last Friday, that's my husband and I, we just had to get out of Stockton, and we ended up in Oakland. And they have their first Friday, it's like a big art walk, but they close all the streets, and they have everything, right in the middle of the street. So you can, like, just walk down the street. And then we ended up, this was fabulous. I don't know if you remember Doggy Diner.
Oh.
So the Doggy Diner heads, when Doggy Diner closed, some people, they were able to save the fiberglass dog heads. And this one person, they had them on like a flatbed truck. There were 3 Doggy Diner heads. And they made a documentary. They took the Doggy Diner heads across country over to Coney Island.
Oh,
and so they filmed their journey going over there, but we got to see them in person and see this film. And then we walked, I don't know, probably 10 blocks. But there's this group, it's called Hippie Kozo. I think I got the name right. And they make these phenomenal pieces out of metal and lights, and it looks very mandala-like. Somehow they like cut the metal So it has like a mandala design.
Wow.
And they make these just remarkable pieces of art out of these things. And there were two different big apartment buildings, like right across the street from each other, and they had their plazas. And this group, they were dedicating their new public art. And it was outside, and we got to see it, and like the lights came up. And what I found out, Oakland has a 1% like tax on new development. So whenever they're making something, they put that towards public art.
Oh, nice.
And we used to have that in Stockton. We had it. It was 2% tax, and then they got rid of it. But, you know, this was what was able to fund the Oakland public art. And, I mean, everywhere you go, you're seeing, you know, murals and the, you know, art on the street and, you know, people doing things a little differently. One thing I thought that was interesting, I don't know if you saw the En Blanc.
No.
They actually had, I didn't go to it, but I saw pictures of it. In Paris, about 30 years ago, they started this dinner that everybody would go and would wear white and would meet at a location. And so they had on the Miracle Mile, right down on Tuxedo by the fountain, they blocked up the street, and they had like wonderful lights over the street and everything, and all the tables were set up all in white, and everybody wore white. And
Wow.
we had our own version of the En Blanc right here in Stockton.
Wow.
So, you know, it's possible. If you dream it, you can do it, you know, and
Absolutely.
just make these things happen.
Yeah. So that means that you're going to be hearing from me more around town, or I'm going to get a little louder about the need for art
There we go.
in the public arena.
Yeah.
There's so much talent that we have in this town,
Mhm.
in the city that is untapped.
Yes.
You know, these kids have the ability to make great things, and we need to give them the shot.
So we need to give the kids a shot. We need to give all ages a shot, and let's bring back public art 2%, please. Please hear me, Mayor. So I'm very thankful, Diana, that you were my guest today, and I'd love to have you back sometime. So.
Sure.
And so that's it for Behind the Art Scenes on the Voice of Stockton, and see you next time.